Buckeye Talk from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It's our game time decisions for Ohio State against Maryland. I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com, here with Stephen Means. Halfway point of the season for the Buckeyes. This will be game 6. Then they take a break, come back with 6 more games after that, and some of the heavy hitters are still left in the second half of this schedule. But here's what you kind of need to be looking at, the important points for this game, this noon kickoff at Ohio Stadium. Stephen, what is your game time decision?
I want to see some more production from the defensive ends, specifically, not the line, just the defensive ends. I mean, we talked about it at length. They've got 13 sacks, and 10 of them are defensive tackles, and 4 of them are by a true freshman who just started playing a week and a half ago. I want to see some production out of them. That doesn't, whether it's sacks, whether it's QB pressures, whether it's TFLs, I want to feel these defensive ends, and I haven't felt that so far. So some of that is Tyreek Smith going to play on Saturday? He hasn't played the last 2 weeks, and if he does play, how much does JT Tuimoloau, who his name is Jalen, by the way. We talked to JT on Wednesday, and he did clarify. I knew his name was Jalen. I didn't know if the T stood for anything. No, it's just his name is Jalen Tuimoloau, so he just goes by JT. His mother wanted him to clear that up. So we talked to Jalen, and we talked to Jack Sawyer as well. Are they taking snaps away from Tyreek Smith and Zach Harrison as they start to get back? And if so, are we going to see more production? I think that's all I want to see. I want to see some type of counting numbers from these defensive ends, because right now all the pressure is from the interior. And I understand that part of being a defensive end is setting the edge and containing a quarterback. That's your number one priority. But it's also to get sacks, and right now they're not doing that.
And Tyreek Smith has not been back. He's been out for the last 2 games, so we don't know exactly if he's going to be back for this Saturday. It wouldn't surprise me if there's some guys who are maybe on the borderline injury-wise that if you can get them through this week without exposing them, then you get a whole nother week off, and it's like 2 weeks of rest for the price of 1. So it's something to keep an eye on. I'm going to go on the offensive side of the ball. We still have not seen this offense, the best version of this offense yet for an extended period of time. You know, we finally got to see healthy C.J. Stroud. We're finally getting to see a healthy C.J. Stroud with this receiving core. And what now this offensive line intact again, if Thayer Mumford's back healthy, which he was last week, and now you get your usual starting offensive line. And then they finally start to get all that together, and Trevion Henderson can only play 1 quarter against Rutgers. So can this offense get through the whole first half? And what does it look like when this offense is clicking all together, all healthy, all playing together for an entire half? That's kind of something I'm looking at. That's maybe a little bit basic. I don't think it necessarily comes down to like any kind of like snap count or anything like that. I think it's just a matter of what does it look like when this offense, when a team has to defend the very best version of this offense for an extended period of time. We just haven't had to see that yet, and Ohio State's still starting to put up a lot of points, a lot of yards, even without that. So it's not like it's inevitable or important for them to win that they do that. But I think it's something that if they can do that for a half, what does it show them that then they build on for the second half of the season when you've got, again, those other 6 games and some much more significant defensive tests coming up in the second half of this schedule, being Michigan, being Penn State, being maybe even Michigan State?
Couple things. One, sorry, I was laughing because as you were talking about his offense, Ryan Day's walking by, and he kind of perks up when he hears offense a little bit. And there he is again, and they've got food, him and his family. But, yeah, I think we haven't seen the best of this offense, but we really haven't had to since it's fixed itself because Trevion Henderson didn't play in the second half last game, and CJ had a great game. So what happens? I think you're right. What happens when all of that collects together? And maybe we start to see glimpses of it against Maryland. Maybe we don't see the best of it until Penn State or maybe even in a playoff or a postseason situation, but continuing to take steps to that direction, I do agree. We need to continue to see that, especially now it's a healthy C.J. Stroud, and Trevion Henderson is good to go.
And Ryan Day also, I think, made the smart decision to not put Trevion Henderson back in that game last week. But I think they also probably want to start when they can, kind of unleashing him the way they did a couple weeks ago against Tulsa and seeing what happens when you give him the ball repeatedly. That's the other thing I want to see is, like, he looked pretty good in the first quarter, but sometimes those guys really get going as the game goes along. And could we see another explosion from Trevion Henderson? And is that something you could start to see week after week, even as the competition gets better later on into Big Ten season? Get the text 614-350-3315. We'll be bringing you intel pregame, during the game, postgame from Buckeye Talk.